7 habits that turn a boy into a man. So which one are you, a man or a grown boy? It's something I've often pondered. The difference between the two goes far beyond age and physical characteristics, and with how the world is now, even those two features aren't enough to tell the difference anymore. I don't say this to be controversial, but as someone who has observed the Peter Pan complex in himself. However, this seems to have accelerated even more in recent years. The presence of overgrown man-children has become rampant in the world today, especially since modern society has tagged masculinity as toxic and has worked tirelessly to feminize men as much as possible. Men and growing boys are being told to be vulnerable and that being weak is okay, and ultimately they never really become the men they could have been. They remain grown boys, suppressing their masculine energy. Maybe you even believe that masculinity is inherently toxic. Perhaps because you were constantly told by your mother or your many female teachers and guardians that every masculine trait is bad and boys should be more feminine. They tell you that you shouldn't be competitive, tone down your energy, and be more submissive instead of taking charge or being competitive. This may be why boys have become increasingly disruptive in class, with no outlet for the energy to go into. They shame and scold you for these acts, ignoring the fact that these traits are necessary to make the men the world needs. Undoing all this brainwashing takes a lot of effort. On the other hand, if you are exempted from this group of guys who have been feminized and brainwashed by society, I'm happy for you. But that still isn't enough to take you into the realm of men. The same society that works tirelessly to brainwash and feminize men will still shame and tear down any guy who fails to perform adequately as a man in any area of life. So it's a confusing contradiction. Being a man and masculinity go hand in hand. It's that competitive drive and hunger that pushes men to achieve great things. Have you noticed that women who reach the top in leadership roles often have masculine qualities? So masculinity is actually needed for all leaders and high achievers, for both men and women. In the eyes of society, women are born with value because of their looks and ability to bear children, while men have to work to create their worth, which is a good thing. It's these trials and challenges that form and built men into leaders. It's also probably why women are constantly complaining that there aren't enough good men around, given that society is actively discouraging masculinity. As a man, you can build your worth until you become a high-value man who trumps societal standards and earns others' respect. Men like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, David Beckham, Joe Rogan, and many more offer something to the world that you and I can respect them for. These men aren't just men based on age, but on other things that I believe you can also develop. You just have to want it. With that said, let's look into 7 habits that turn boys into men. 1. Taking responsibility. Do you remember as a kid when you would try to blame your siblings to avoid getting punished for your wrongdoings? Those habits were considered normal when you were a child and wouldn't even bother most people. However, this is one habit a man isn't supposed to have. It goes without saying, but there's a certain level of responsibility associated with being a man, and it's one of the defining factors that turns boys into men. However, we often see men who want to shy away from responsibility or transfer the blame in the hopes of being exonerated from it. This isn't a habit that gets you upgraded from boy to man, and it is one that even looks worse than it sounds. Taking responsibility is one of the most basic things expected from a man. You are expected to look for objective reasons for why things are happening rather than using your feelings as the point of reason. As a man, you should also be able to take responsibility for what is your fault and grow from the experience, while accepting what is out of your control for the time being. 2. Control your emotions. As we grow up, we learn in sex ed class how puberty works in boys. One of the things we learn is how puberty causes adolescents to become quite rebellious, and they often think they can do anything or handle anyone, especially without considering the consequences of those actions. Sometimes, we even get into fights with authority figures based on these emotions, and do many other dumb things. No one thought it out of place for boys to behave like that. However, if you want to become a man, there must be some change when handling your emotions. Stoicism is often regarded as one of the qualities of being a man, and it involves being objective about every situation, including how you feel. Objectively deciphering how you feel while trying your best as you work on what you can do to change it is a habit that turns boys into men. Having emotions is normal, but what you do with them is what makes the difference. 3. Video games and fapping. Speaking about pleasure, many guys today would do anything for the things that give them pleasure, especially when it also helps them escape their life issues. There is no problem with having pleasures or pursuing them. However, it becomes problematic when that pleasure drives you, because it will lead you astray if you aren't careful. Video games are one of the many pleasures that guys are involved in these days. I love video games as much as the next guy, but it shouldn't be all you do. It gets even worse when you stay in your parents' basement, stuck on video games, refusing to socialize or even earn a living but rather living off their resources. That is the behavior of a boy, and one that will most likely not grow into a man anytime soon. The great outdoors exists for a reason, and as you grow older, it becomes important to get out there and fend for yourself. Video games are a great hobby, but they shouldn't be your main priority, except when they serve as your source of income. Instead of meeting beautiful women and creating lasting relationships, boys who refuse to grow up would rather stay home with their computers and have at it till one arm is disproportionately larger than the other, and nothing is left in the tank. That's a recipe for destruction, and it is definitely not the habit that will turn you into a man. 4. Financial independence and control. Being self-sufficient is possibly the most important factor that shows that you have become a man. And many times and on different occasions, we have seen people, particularly females, refer to their male partners as unmanly, solely because he isn't financially capable. This just shows how much the world considers being financially independent as a vital quality of a man. As a kid, your parents gave you an allowance, or you got a job as a newspaper boy or something on the same level, which served as your main source of income. The feeling of having your own money was a lovely high at the time, and it is even more important now that you have outgrown allowances. That said, being financially independent comes with undeniable problems for boyish men. They spend their income on the wrong things, like alcohol and drugs. Going out for a drink or two with the boys isn't bad, but when you lack self-control or get into drugs, it ends up sucking up all your funds while leaving you worse off. Boys are the only ones who get excited when the opportunity to drink arises, mainly because they couldn't at one point in their lives. As men, alcohol and drugs are never the way to go, and your finances are better spent on things that matter. 5. Being organized. As a kid, my room was always a mess until my mom asked me to clean up after myself with my playtime on the line. I'm pretty sure a lot of guys can relate to this experience, and most times, it isn't even gender specific. Being organized is something that boys have to be asked to do before it is done. However, that changes if you want to be known as a man. Being organized doesn't just involve the little things like cleaning up your room. It goes much further than that and affects your entire life. My dad would always say, "You're becoming a man," when he entered my space and found it organized. This shows that being a man involves something as simple as being clean and orderly. Being organized can also involve your time, workspace, car, home, relationships, activities, and your entire life. The moment you can take control of the little world around you, that is when you can become a man and the master of your time and environment. It all comes down to order, which will tell the world if you are still a boy or a man. 6. Acts of service. Many people believe that being a man automatically makes you a leader, especially since history has shown us that men are the head of the home and things like that. Of course, being a man involves being able to take control of a situation and lead when needed, but it isn't a natural trait that just comes with the XY chromosome. It is a skill that takes a whole load of work to develop. Being a leader doesn't mean throwing your weight around with every opportunity you get, and it definitely doesn't mean shoving your desires down other people's throats. When some company manager makes their subordinates do all the work while claiming to be the boss, it shows that they can't handle the leadership role given to them. Being a leader means being able to serve, and not like an enslaved person or a simp. Throughout history, the best leaders are the ones who show commendable acts of service to those under them, ultimately earning the respect and loyalty of their subordinates. When you lead and serve, it becomes easier for people to take you seriously because they know you do what you preach. 7. Your weakness and the people around you. No man is perfect. That is an irrefutable statement that has withstood the test of time. History has portrayed some of the strongest men the world has ever seen, and we have seen them be brought down by things that don't seem like a lot, but end up being enough. Take Achilles or the biblical figure Samson. Both men were considered pretty strong, but still didn't live long enough for it to matter. Being weak is normal, and having moments of weakness and failing in life is all but a rite of passage through the journey of life. However, what comes after is what makes the difference. Will you wallow in your failure and moment of weakness? Or will you rise from the ashes and take another go at it? It all depends on you. This also means that the people around you matter greatly, especially when you aren't at your best. If you surround yourself with people who want what you want and will help you grow as a man, your success is inevitable. However, if they always play the victim card, they aren't the ones you want to be around you. What makes a man is when you set boundaries by deciding who to let in your life and give your time to. The harsh truth is, society thinks turning boys into men is easy and something that merely happens with age. But this just isn't the case. It goes far beyond that. And as you live and grow as a man, you will see this in your own life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and hit us up in the comment section to let us know your thoughts. Until next time.